told we stand at the threshold of this profound transformation.
Right.
For 100 years, economic development followed a pretty clear pattern. You had industrialization, then digitization, globalization.
Each one was a huge wave, for sure.
Mm.
But our sources today are really clear that those, well, they don't even compare in speed or depth to what's happening right now.
And that's driven by large-scale artificial intelligence.
As a general purpose capability, that's the key phrase. It's not a niche tool anymore.
Yeah, we're so far beyond simple automation. The source material describes it as a new cognitive layer.
I love that term.
It's an augmentation of perception, prediction, planning.
And coordination. It interacts with every single sector all at once.
So it's becoming the substrate of economic life. That's a strong word.
It is. A substrate is the foundation, the layer that everything else is built on top of. So it's already shaping how financial systems work, how research gets done, infrastructure, even public institutions. It's absolutely foundational.
And when something becomes that foundational, you have to question everything about it. Which brings us to the central mission of our deep dive today.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from our key source, a paper by Lev Neymotin, PhD of N5 Digital. And he asked this really provocative question: are we even calling this technology by the right name?
And it sounds like a small thing, just semantics. But his argument, and what we're exploring today, is that the term artificial intelligence is not just wrong, it's misleading.
So he proposes an alternative.
He does. A term he argues is much more honest and precise: human-sum intelligence, or HSI.
Okay, HSI, let's unpack that. I mean, we've been using the term AI for decades. What is so wrong with the word artificial? What does it imply that isn't true?
Well, artificial just carries this immense weight of separation. It suggests something invented from nothing, a synthetic, almost alien mind.
It just appeared, independent of us.
Exactly, like it was born in a lab, fully formed, with no connection to humanity.
But that's not how these large models work at all. They don't start from a blank slate.
Not even close. The source argues that what we call AI isn't an independent agent. It is, and this is a direct quote, a concentrated, accelerated reflection of us.
A reflection of us.
Think about it. There isn't a single parameter in these models that wasn't ultimately derived from human language, human creativity, our logic, even our mistakes and our values. It's a mirror. A very powerful, very fast mirror, but a mirror nonetheless. It's not a different species.
That distinction is huge. The mirror versus the alien mind. A lot of the fear, the sci-fi stuff comes from thinking of it as this separate, independent consciousness.
Right.
But if the input is all human, how does it seem to do things that feel new? How does it transform that input?
That's the compression and reorganization part.
Yeah.
The author uses this great analogy. Imagine all of human expression, everything ever written, discovered, argued about, you name it, as this one giant, messy library.
Okay.
AI doesn't imitate our intelligence. It consumes that entire library in an instant, compresses all the patterns and relationships it finds there, and then reorganizes it all into a computational structure.
So it's not reading a book and having an opinion. It's absorbing the entire concept of book and every word ever written.
And the connections between all those words. It's the difference between, say, a brilliant person reading 5,000 books in a lifetime.
Which is incredible.
Incredible. But the system reads the equivalent of the Library of Congress in, what, a second? The machine provides that pattern, speed, and that scale. But the fuel, the actual intellectual substance, is all human-derived.
Which leads us right back to his proposed name for it, Human-Sum Intelligence, HSI.
Mm-hmm.
So if artificial is wrong, HSI is meant to be right. The source breaks it down into 4 pillars. Let's really get into these, starting with the first one, human-derived.
Right. Human-derived is that foundational truth we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Every single input text, data, images, even the reasoning structures in the code, it all comes from humanity.
It's not a technical detail. It's the whole point.
It's a moral point, too. The machine provides the scale, but it is never the origin of the knowledge. If the system knows about, say, physics, it's because a human wrote it down and we fed it to the machine.
Okay, but let me push back on that a little bit. What about emergent capabilities?
That's the question everyone asks.
Yeah, we hear about models that suddenly learn to code in a language they weren't trained on, or they show signs of reasoning. If it's doing something we didn't explicitly teach it, doesn't that make it artificial?
It's a fantastic question. But this is where that idea of reorganization is so important. Emergent capabilities are basically the machine finding deep relationships between existing human ideas.
Relationships we didn't see ourselves.
Exactly. They were too complex or hidden in too much data for any single human brain or even a team of them to spot. It's like finding a brand new recipe by combining existing ingredients in a way no one ever thought of. The ingredients are still human. The machine just found the combination faster.
Okay, that makes sense. It's finding hidden patterns in our own intellectual history. That definitely strengthens the human-derived argument. What's the second pillar?
The second one is human integrated. This one pushes back against the idea that AI just operates in a vacuum, all by itself.
The set it and forget it fantasy.
Totally. The truth is, HSI doesn't stand apart. It extends human intelligence. Its best, highest function requires us. We have to guide it, constrain it, and this is critical corrective.
So that idea of a fully autonomous system running everything is mostly fiction.
For any high-stakes use, absolutely. The machine is an amplifier for human capability. But an amplifier needs a signal, right? We provide the signal through our expertise and our judgment.
A doctor using it for diagnosis, for example.
Perfect example. The doctor is integrating the system's incredible pattern-matching speed with their own critical judgment and knowledge of the patient. You take the doctor out of that loop, and all you have are raw predictions without context or responsibility.
Which brings us to the third pillar, which I think is maybe the most powerful idea here. Human-Summated.
This is the real core of the name. Modern AI models are only successful because they aggregate knowledge from millions of people across hundreds of years and distill it all through computation. They literally contain the sum total of collective human expression.
From ancient philosophy to yesterday's scientific papers.
Everything. Every language, every industry report. You stop thinking of it as this little artificial brain tree to copy one of us, and you start seeing it as this vast compendium of all of us.
That really does land differently. It's not artificial at all.
No. As the source says, it's the distilled, accelerated, human-sum intelligence of humanity itself. It can bridge different fields of expertise instantly because it has access to every expert who ever wrote anything down on a topic. It's the closest we've ever come to a collective global brain.
So what about the fears? The runaway AI, the malevolent machine, where does that fit in?
That's the fourth pillar, human-empowered. This pillar tackles that fear narrative head-on. It states that these systems, because they're just tools built on our data, have no self-generated intent. They have no goals of their own. They are only activated and directed by us. They're aligned with human goals and bounded by human choices.
So if a system does something awful, you can't just blame the machine.
You can't. The responsibility always traces back to a human. Someone programmed the directive or curated the data or set the alignment that led to that outcome. Framing it as human-empowered keeps the focus squarely on human accountability and governance, not on some fictional runaway consciousness.
Okay, so HSI is a more accurate description, but so what? Why does a name change matter outside of, a philosophical debate? What are the real-world stakes for all of us?
The stakes are enormous because, and this is another key quote from the source, how we name things determines how we govern them.
That's powerful.
It is. Calling it artificial intelligence encourages what the author calls mystical thinking.
Mystical thinking, what does that mean?
It creates these two dangerous extremes. On one hand, you get exaggerated fear, the Terminator, the AGI takeover story, which makes us focus on science fiction problems instead of the real practical harms happening right now.
Like bias and data privacy.
Exactly. And on the other hand, you get exaggerated hope, where we expect the machine to just solve climate change or poverty on its own without any of the hard human work or political will.
So it's a recipe for paralysis. We're either terrified of a phantom or waiting for a savior, and in the meantime, we're not regulating the real thing.
Precisely. But when you call it human-sum intelligence, you're forced to be grounded. The conversation immediately shifts from regulating a fictional mind to regulating very real things like data, supply chains, and accountability frameworks.
Let's get specific on those shifts. If a policymaker starts thinking HSI instead of AI, what actually changes?
Okay, first, you acknowledge that HSI doesn't invent new values. It just reflects the values we fed into it. So if a system is biased, that means our collective data was biased. The responsibility shifts to cleaning up the data, the sum.
The problem isn't the machine learning to be biased. It's that it learned from our bias, magnified.
Absolutely. Second, HSI doesn't replace human responsibility. It expands it. The tool is so powerful that our level of oversight has to increase. We become responsible for the collective knowledge we're choosing to accelerate.
And what about that fear of human obsolescence? That will all be useless.
That really fades under the HSI framework. It makes it clear that technology magnifies human creativity and reasoning. It doesn't erase our uniqueness. It actually confirms that human expertise is more critical than ever to guide this thing. It's an enhancement tool.
So this whole thing, it really shifts the perspective. Instead of seeing the machine as some external competitor,
You see it as what it is.
you see it as the scalable continuation of our own intelligence, our collective intellect, just summed, structured, and accelerated.
That's the core realization. It's our heritage, just in a computational form.
So for you, listening to this and trying to figure out your place in this new world, it means that by adopting this idea of human-sum intelligence, we actually reclaim the narrative. We anchor the technology in reality. And that gives us a much better foundation for building the rules and standards for the economy of the future. It's a huge shift in thinking.
And that brings us to the final thought we want to leave you with. If these systems truly are the sum of humanity's stored knowledge, everything we've ever created, good and bad, then we have to face the ethical weight of that.
Our history includes brilliance and kindness, but it also includes a lot of contradictory, flawed, and biased stuff. It's all in the training data.
It's all in there, and it's all being amplified. So the challenge for us, for everyone, is this. What responsibility do we have to decide which parts of the human experience get amplified in this new cognitive layer? How do we make sure that the sum represents our best, our most forward-thinking intelligence, and not just our loudest or most historically flawed voices? That right there is the real work ahead.